Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I am behind. This is the Artisan Arroyo, which was purchased by LeftyEDC, Kevin, who will be linked down below, and it was sent directly to me for a specific reason. So both of us were pretty curious about this knife in terms of just how it is as a knife, because we've been seeing it around, and it's a compelling design, and there's some things about it that are interesting, right? But Kevin had the fun idea specifically because this is in the new AR RPM9 steel, which is Artisan's kind of proprietary steel from what I understand. It's their in-house steel that they're going to be using on a lot of stuff. This uses that, and neither of us have like real experience with it yet. I did have the Cerberus Arion, I think is the way he says it. The Arion is what I called it. I had the prototype of that knife, which he loaned to me to review, and that was in this steel. And I used it a little bit, but I wasn't really trying to like find its limits, right? I was just seeing like, is it capable of the normal stuff I do without losing its edge? And most knives should be. Like if I had a knife in VG10 or D2 or freaking 8CR13 MOV for like a week of my normal EDC stuff of like processing some cardboard, opening some packages, slicing an apple, it should be fine, right? So I wasn't like finding the limits of the steel in that video series, but we were both curious to kind of see where the limits are. I have seen Gerald from Outpost 76 has done some specific testing on this. If you want to see a scientific approach to it, go to Outpost 76. Gerald is much more conclusive. He goes through the sharpening process, which when I watched his videos, I was intrigued to see he did have some difficulties sharpening this. So I'm a little bit more scared because it started as Kevin like asking me, hey, would you want to test it, get it to the point where it's dull, and like be able to describe that experience and talk about what made it dull, and then sharpen it before you send it to, I don't know whether it's going straight to him after or if it's going to go to Kyle first, but I was like, yeah, no problem, I'll throw it on my KME and I'll sharpen it. And it seemed like Gerald had some difficulty sharpening it, so we'll see if that's true for me as well. But anyways, I unboxed this like a couple of weeks ago now. I think I unboxed it before I left for Portland. I was in Portland for like over a week, and I've been back for like over a week, and so it's been a while. And I've just been getting through a lot of knives to kind of get to the space where I have the time to focus on and do this. But I'm out on a hike now. I've just shot a couple of videos, and I've even been doing a little bit of like testing because I brought a tomahawk I needed to test and stuff, and I think it's finally time to go ahead and start just beating on this and seeing what it's capable of. I'll be doing some EDC stuff with it as well, like cardboard and all that, but while I'm out here, I'm just going to chop at some wood, and I'll try doing a little feather sticking, and I'm just going to like put it through some serious paces for a budget-ish folding knife. The knife itself, real quick, let's kind of jump into like what it's made of other than the steel, because we already said that, and a little bit of about this knife, I guess. So this one has micarta scales on it. Kevin ordered this from Amazon. It's kind of cool. I generally would prefer to buy knives not from Amazon if I ever have the chance, but it is nice that it shipped to me so quickly and easily. But yeah, micarta scales front and back, deep carry pocket clip, which Artisan nails, by the way. They sink the clip down into the scale material, and then they use countersunk screws that are flathead, and that's exactly the way I like to have a clip constructed. So kudos to them for crushing it on clips right now. I'm floored that they do that at the price point that they're in, because a lot of people who are much more expensive aren't doing those like little steps of just countersinking it in. I like that they do that. Internally, these liners are milled out. Looks like just on the show side. We've got some big holes drilled out in there, and then it's a liner lock. We've got what looks like a ceramic detent, runs on bearings. It's a flipper, and this one is a Dirk Pinkerton design. Dirk Pinkerton has designed a number of knives. I feel like I've owned something else he's designed before, but now I'm drawing a blank on what it was. It's an interesting blade shape. I would describe it as kind of a clip point. I feel like somebody told me it's a trailing point. I don't know. Trailing point is one of those blade shapes that like, is a PM2 a trailing point? I don't know. I would consider it like maybe a leaf-shaped blade. I don't know. So that's one of those terms that I'm not all that familiar with. I would call it a clip point because it's got this thing on it, but it's got a ton of belly. The whole thing basically is just belly, and a really interesting blade shape. Kind of a cool looking design. So we're going to go ahead and just cut to me cutting things, I guess, and see how it fares. Yeah, I'm curious to see how this knife feels in hand and hard use, I feel like it's probably going to be pretty good. Ergonomically, this handle shape, come on, is real neutral. And it's got a good size and profile for my hand. The jimping isn't too aggressive. I do have some gloves out here I could throw on if I need them, but I don't think I will. And yeah, we're just going to see kind of how it fares. Maybe I'll get it dull today, and it will be objectively dull, and I'll know right off the bat that edge retention is not phenomenal. But maybe it will be really hard to dull. We'll see. Time will tell. So this is, again, going to be super unscientific. I'm just going to do a bunch of stuff with it, enough that I can kind of talk about it and feel like I know where it got to, and hopefully document that a little bit. But I'm not like going to be testing how many feet of cardboard it will go through or something like that. Again, channels like Outpost 76 would be the right place to go for that kind of testing, where you have like a measurable, against other steels, comparable outcome. This will just be me in the woods for today. Anyways, we're going to jump to it. So here we go. Alright, so earlier I was hacking at this with an RMJ Tomahawk. You can watch that video if you want to see that happen. But this downed tree is, I don't know, the tree it's on, I'm confident is an aspen at this point, but I think this might be an aspen as well. I don't know, I'm not a tree expert. I'm not an arborist, if you will. So you can see I've been hacking at this. It's a pretty hard wood. If it is aspen, or whatever this is, I've actually used logs from this type of tree before to create like cooking coals, because it burns slow and hot. It's a fairly hard wood, and it's been down for a while. So I'm just going to see, get rid of that, I'm just going to see how this does at like some chopping on here. It's obviously dead, has been for a while. It's pretty dried out. So we're just going to see, I'm going to just pinch grip back here. Yeah, this is not a realistic cutting task for this type of knife. So I'm not really even putting all that much of a dent into here. You can see this was, I don't know, like 10 chops with the RMJ Tomahawk, and each one was taking out like significant amount of material. But I'm hitting all on this kind of same portion right along here every time, and the edge still feels every bit as sharp as it did before to me. So let's find another task, because I don't want to keep doing that. It doesn't feel like I'm doing much, although it is nice that it's not, even looking close, I'm genuinely not seeing chips or rolls. Yeah, that edge is still sharp. So let's go try something else. Alright, this is just a dead branch that I found on the ground. We're just going to go ahead and see how this feather sticks. It's not too bad. Feels like it's doing all right. Getting decent curls off there. They're fairly thin. Let's look at how this is doing. So that should have been kind of down on this portion. No deformation yet. Obviously these are just kind of momentary tests. I'm not like doing this for hours, but let's do a little more of that. See how it does. definitely say at this point on my hand, I don't know if you can see that spot. It's definitely kind of digging in the way that this is kind of thin and like shadow boxed up here. But most knives, when you're pressing this hard, to be fair, you're going to start digging into your hands. Alright, so we're taking a lot of meat out of this stick at this point. Let's see. Still feels about as sharp as when we started. You know what we need to do? We need to see how it batons. Alright, so this is a piece of that same piece of wood I was just feather sticking. And we're just going to see how it fares at batoning. Well, still no issues. Yeah, I don't see any chips, any rolls. I can feel with my fingernail. Can't tell if it's just some of this grittiness on the blade. It feels like we might have some tiny, tiny, tiny rolls that I can't see. I'm just kind of feeling. Let's give it another whirl. Might as well split it again, right? Did a good job at splitting that. I'm impressed. My other stick. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely handling it. Lockup on here is still good. Action still fine. It's probably getting a little dust in there, but it's still functioning just fine. Yeah, let's see. It's working. I mean, I don't see any major deformations. I don't even feel like the edge is less sharp yet than when we started, so that's good. Let's find another task to do. Alright, I am back at this kind of downed aspen. I think I'm just going to like strip a bunch of bark off of it with the knife and see how she fares. So here we go. Do this lefty at first. Alright, it's kind of digging into the actual wood a little bit here and there. Still going strong. I'm trying to look closely at the edge, see if I can spot any defects. I'm just not seeing anything yet. Alright, so stripped off a bunch of bark. The edge is still going strong. Seems to be doing just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and do some more just like hacking at this. I feel like that's the hardest thing that I've done on the knife perceivably so far. I would think that would get me to roll the edge, maybe? I mean, to be honest, I kind of assumed that I would see some deformation just with what I've done so far, and I haven't yet, so we're going to keep on going. I'm just going to hack for a little bit. This knife isn't weighty enough or big enough that it's going to like go deep into here, but I'm just going to hack a little bit and see what happens. Alright, let's check in, see where we're at. Still no roll. The edge still looks even. I don't know. I guess if I get really, really close, I might be seeing just the tiniest bit of like chipping. Like really, really fine chipping. Let me feel with my fingernail. Yeah, I guess the edge has like, I don't know, a little bit more of like a burble to it. Here where I've been striking. Right in here. I can feel a little bit of grit with my fingernail. Whereas up here, where I haven't really done anything with it yet, I don't feel that at all. So maybe there's a little something happening, but not a ton. Let's chop some more. Alright, I'm hitting it hard. Yeah, okay. So now, yeah, the edge, I can feel just a little bit of like grittiness on my nail, but looking at it, it's still going fairly strong. I don't know what the properties of RPM9 are. I'm not a steel metallurgist, like I'm not into that like a lot of other people are. Although I like to hear what they have to say about it because I find the information valuable, but I don't like retain it. So I don't know, maybe this steel is fairly tough steel. But the edge is doing pretty well. Let me smack it a few more times real hard. Yeah, it kind of appears to just be doing pretty well at this kind of stuff. Apparently I've got to take it home and start just like going through a bunch of cardboard or something. See how that does. Because at this point, like, I can feel a little bit of kind of grit in the edge in a few spots. I've got a little tiniest bit of a roll right here. But they're tiny. They're almost imperceptible. Sorry, something's like coming down the hillside right behind me. Anyways, I'm gonna see if I can't find a better way to get this dull, because I can't keep chopping like this. It's just making my hand raw on this little folder. Lockup and everything is still Doing pretty well. Could probably use a... Oh, it's just a squirrel. The bearings could probably stand to be blown out. Some compressed air or something, because I'm sure I've gotten some dust in there, but still totally functioning after all that hacking, which is pretty good. This is definitely not the knife I would recommend if you're looking to to chop. It's just, I mean, there's not enough like weight and girth to it to do an efficient job at like actually hacking into wood like this. But I'm surprised with how little effect it's taking on the wood, that the wood has seemed to take no effect on it. I mean, interesting and kind of impressive. So, I don't know. I guess we'll reconvene with another task. Alright, so, I mean, in terms of what I can do out here, if hacking at a log isn't getting it dull, I batoned a little bit with it. I did a little bit of feather sticking. I think what I gotta do is, I'll probably do another video, and I'll do some like around the house type of stuff. Maybe I'll process a whole bunch of cardboard with it. I'll put it through some zip ties. I'll see if any of that seems to damage it. And then, I don't know what else I can do. Maybe I'll like cut food on a ceramic plate or something. It's not like this should be an intense super steel. But this is probably a good, almost like, education for you as the viewer as to like how much steels really ought to be capable of. Because like the knives that I trust to bring out in a place like this, the ones that you'll find in my pocket if I'm going on a day hike, not to film, not to shoot pictures, but just like me to go hiking. Like the number one example would probably be my Demco 8020 or a Spyderco Shaman in Rex 45 or something. My 8020 is in CPM 3B. And like those knives, like if this is capable of doing all this like ridiculous stuff out here for no reason just to see if it can handle it, and it has, then those knives that are specifically like overbuilt and in those crazy steels, I think are more capable than a lot of people realize. And I think people also think that like I go through more edges than I do on knives. First of all, I have a lot of knives that I'm constantly using, so like it's not like I use one knife consistently for a year. But even that, like, if this can go through all that and not need a sharpening, my 8020 has gone through worse for sure. But all I've done is strop it. And this right here, if I got home today and I cleaned it a little because it got dusty inside or whatever, but if I stropped it, I bet I could strop this back to sharp from where it's at right now, because it's not even dull. It's just like the tiniest little imperfections on this edge. I think it would be fine with a stropping. But yeah, I don't go through edges like crazy. And like since I got my KME months ago, I've sharpened probably 5 or 6 knives on it. I strop fairly often because I'm big on maintenance, keeping my edges sharp, because I'd rather not have to fully sharpen them unless I like feel a need to reprofile it for some reason or something. But yeah, I think this is probably a little bit educational in like how much knives should be capable of. And maybe this is also an education in how good this steel is. I don't know. I don't have like a big expectation for this steel. I guess I kind of assumed that I'd put it in a range of like D2-ish. And I feel like if I did that with D2, if this same knife was in D2, it's very, just my opinion, I don't think it would be I don't think it would have held up quite as well as this has. Obviously it all depends on heat treat and edge geometry and all of that stuff, but I'm pretty impressed. I did a decent bit. Like I was hacking at that log for a minute there, and with force, and yeah, plus the knife still feels just fine. There's no like structural issue with the knife so far, and it's a fairly inexpensive like budget liner lock. So yeah, this is doing pretty well. Anyways, there will be another video soon where I'll do some more like around the house type of cutting tasks, and I will continue trying to get this dull. But so far, first impressions of AR RPM9 steel are that I'm impressed. I didn't think it would go through all that and be this unfazed, because it was pretty hard wood, and I was whacking at it. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you on the next one. Again, Kevin from LeftyEDC will be linked down below. This is his knife. He just had it sent to me, so check him out as well. When I'm done with it, I'm sure he'll be doing videos of this knife too. So this is the Artisan Arroyo, and yeah, see you guys later.